Okay, hey everyone. Welcome to my vlog this week. So I've been so very busy lately for multiple reasons, and I have not been knitting very much. It's a little sad, but it's just a season. I've also been going through some things in like family type stuff. Everybody's okay, but like some health stuff. And so anytime something like that happens, I tend to have less creative output because I have less creative energy. So that's all also happening. But I did get some clips this past week of just me puttering about the house and the garden. And then I do have a little bit of knitting that I can share with you all and some plans. Oh, I gotta get this over here. Some plans because I have some plans. I am thinking forward towards Christmas, which I don't do this time of year typically, but we'll talk about that more here in a minute. All right, so I talked about the Vilma top, my Vilma top that I knit in drop spell. I talked about this last week in last week's episode, and I decided it is official. I am going to frog that. I'm actually going to do it today when I'm done filming this. I'm going to knit that. I love that. I love it. I love that vest, top, whatever you want to call it, but I don't love it in that yarn. I don't think it's going to work in that yarn. So I'm going to frog that project and I'm going to re-knit it probably this fall. And I'm going to knit it in a wool yarn, not a cotton, not a plant-based yarn. I think it'll be a better fit just to do it in a wool yarn. Number one, that is what I'm going to be doing with that project. So thank you everyone for your input on that. Okay, let's talk about my sock thing last because I have a little bit more to say about that, but I want to show you my cozy memory blanket, cozy memories. This is still bringing me a lot of joy, and I think because my brain has been a little bit cluttered with just personal stuff lately, it's been so nice to have this mindless knit. It's mindless in the actual knitting itself, but I do love choosing the next color. It's so fun to finish one square and to get into my basket, which I don't have with me, but I have a basket of mini skeins that are, all my fingering weight scraps, leftovers from socks, scarves, just all my fingering weight projects I've done in the past. And then there's also some that I just bought as mini skeins. Let me show you here. It's grown some. I love looking at it. It's so nice to look at. And I just added on this new color, which is a color that Robin, a flax flannel, sent me in our Advent exchange. I don't have the tag with me. I don't remember if she naturally dyed this herself, because or not naturally, if she dyed this herself, because she does dye yarn too. So anyway, I just started that one and haven't gotten very far with this square yet, but I had, last time I talked, I think I had shown you that I had added on this whole row here. And then I started, since my last podcast, I started this row. So I haven't been working on this as much, but I will say the reason I got that entire row done was because I was camping, and that was what I worked on while we were camping. That was like the only thing I worked on while we were camping. So I did get more done over that weekend. But again, I'm so glad I decided to stick with this one and not start a brand new one, because just little bit by little bit, if it takes me another decade to finish this, then so be it. I don't think it's going to this time, but it might, because every time I pick this up and start working on it again, I think I'm going to finish it this time. I love working on this. And then I just kind of lose steam after a while, and then I come back to it when I feel like working on it again. Okay, so the next thing I want to quickly talk about is I want to talk about sock knitting, because I used to be a huge sock knitter, and then last year I hardly knit any socks. I think I may have knit a couple pairs to give away as gifts. I just wasn't in the mood to knit socks. I was just very focused on knitting sweaters and tops, mostly sweaters and tops. which are big things to knit. So I wasn't giving a lot of extra brain space or knitting time to smaller projects like socks. But this year, and honestly, just since the late spring when I bought that skein of beach ball fingering weight yarn from Barn Yarn Knits, something about that yarn just set something off in my brain and it made me want to knit a bunch of socks again. So I finished those and I showed them on my last podcast episode. But look, I still have quite a bit of yarn left. So I'll be able to do something with that, maybe a pair of shorties. Speaking of a pair of shorties, I am knitting a pair of shorties. This is the thrifted yarn I found for $1 at the thrift store near the campground that we were at last year. And I decided, I had already started knitting that sock using that yarn in I think I was doing the Hermione's everyday sock maybe. I can't even remember now, but I ripped it out because I decided that it was not, it's a long story. We're not going to go there. But I'm using that yarn now, and I finished my first shorty sock with that yarn. So this is the color I was talking about, and then I'm using a contrast. And I don't know what these contrast colors are because I just dug them out of my scrap bags. But the reason I have to talk about this and show this to you is because this is an afterthought heel, and it's my very first afterthought heel. I've never made one before. I don't know why I always felt so intimidated by it, but I did. But then I read this book, and I talked about this in my 10 favorite knitting books podcast episode. If you haven't watched that, I'll link it down below if you want to go check that out. But this is Summerlee's very first book. It's called The Sock Project. I read this front to back, which is so funny because I don't normally do that with knitting books or like any kind of crafty, artsy resource book. I don't typically read front to back because I use it more as a resource and I just look things up as I need to. I don't know what made me, I was just like in bed one night and I had extra time and I just started reading, and then I was like, oh yeah, now I didn't read like every pattern through, but I read through like the informational parts of this book. So she has instructions on here on how to do, actually what I did was called the Forethought Heel. I didn't even know there was a difference. I thought the Afterthought Heel was just the only thing there was. But it's a Forethought heel because as I was knitting, let me show you. Okay, so as I was knitting, I was thinking where I was going to put my heel. So I knew I wanted to do shorty, so I did 10 rows of 2x2 ribbing, and I cast on 60 stitches, and I used a size US Swan needle. And then I did 10 rounds of just a stockinette, and then I thought, okay, this is where I'm going to put my heel in. So I only want this much height on my ankle. And so then I knit in a contrast color over half of the stitches. So because I had a 60 stitch cast on, I knit in a contrast strand for 30 stitches. So I let my main color drop, pulled in a contrast color, knit 30 stitches, cut that contrast color, I left a tail there, cut the main color and rejoined it on the other side. And that is how you put in a Forethought heel. And it's called a Forethought heel because you're thinking about it ahead of time and you're marking where you want your heel to be. Oh, hi, Tilly. Were you outside? Tilly just came in. She was outside with Brad while he was on his lunch break. Hi. Okay. So she has instructions for that in her book. And this is what I followed when I was trying to figure out how to do this. But she also has instructions for an afterthought heel. The difference, I think, between an afterthought and a forethought heel is that, at least this is my understanding of it, because I've never done a true afterthought heel, okay? But the forethought heel, you knit in your scrap piece of yarn, and then when you go back later, when you finish the rest of the sock, and you go back to put your heel in, you pick up stitches above that row of contrast and below the row of contrast, okay? So above and below your contrast scrap yarn. And then you unpick that piece of scrap yarn that you knitted in. So you're not cutting anything, where with an afterthought, you would knit your tube and then you would go back and determine, you want to come up here? Come on, come. Okay, come. So then you would go back and determine where you want to put your heel, and you would mark it out somehow, and then you would actually cut a hole for your heel. Are you tired? You're all wet. It's been raining. Everything is wet. It has been so rainy here. We've had flooding. Like, we live on top of a hill, so we don't really, if it floods here, everybody's in trouble. Like, if it floods here on top of the hill we live on. But my parents, who live several houses down, also live on top of a hill, but they get a lot of road washout, so their basement has flooded. Like, there's roads shut down today because we've had a lot of flash flooding. It's just been a little bit, it's been so rainy. The good thing about it has been I think I've only had to water the garden maybe 10 times since I planted it. It's been a nice mixture of rain and sun. So the garden is doing excellent, as you probably would have seen in the vloggy portion of this. Okay, but anyway, she explains all that stuff in this book. I highly recommend this book. If you are a sock knitter, or if you want to become a sock knitter, like, there is a lot. I've knit a lot of socks, and there is a lot in here for me to learn. And then there's just some really pretty patterns too, and fun patterns. But the question then was, am I going to like how this fits? Because as much as I've knit socks, I was going to say I've only ever knit a heel flap and gusset, but that is not true, because I did the Magic Heel by Judy, and I think it's called the Magic Heel sock. I knit that, so that was a different kind of heel than I normally do. But other than that, and other than this one, I think every other sock I've ever knitted has been a heel flap and gusset, and I love how they fit me. And that's why I've always knit that, because I'm like, I like how it fits. I think that way of making a sock fits most people well. Maybe not everyone, but most people well. And so, because I also gift a lot of socks, I've just always knitted that particular heel. So I was like, am I going to like this? Is this going to fit my foot well? Or is it going to feel like it slides down? Is it not going to stay in place? Well, I put it on last night, and I was so very pleasantly surprised. This heel fit me amazing. And I will put in like some footage of it on my foot, which is very exciting to me, because I love self-striping sock yarn. I love making self-striping socks, but I've always, up until this point, used the heel flap and gusset, which does disrupt the flow of your stripes, okay? And so this is exciting to me, because now I can do this, and it's super easy. It's not hard, and I know it fits me well. So that's exciting. So basically all you do is you pick up stitches. After you remove your scrap yarn, you know you're going to have, so I used, to pick up stitches on above and below the contrast yarn that was in here, I used 2 9-inch circulars. So I just did this, okay, to pick them up. And then I went through and transferred all of those stitches onto 1 9-inch circular. So I just like transferred them over to 1. It was just easier to pick up with 2 different needles than to try to pick up all those stitches on 1 needle. But then you just work it like a toe decrease. You just literally work it like you work a toe, where you're decreasing every other round. And then you get to a certain amount of stitches. Look, you can see they look the same. You get to a certain amount of stitches, and then you graft that shut. So, like, my sock knitting world has been changed. I'm so happy that I just tried something new, because I like to do things that I know how to do, because then I feel like I have more of a guarantee that it's going to turn out right. And so I've always been hesitant to try different heels, but I'm so excited about this. Now I can't wait to cast on another pair of socks, and preferably I have multiple skeins of self-striping sock yarn. This is the majority of my sock yarn, or my fingering weight. I just call it sock yarn, but it's not. It can be used for anything. It's fingering weight. But I've also been a part of the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad Club for the last year and a half, which is, that's been a great club. I have a ton of yarn, fingering weight yarn. You basically get a 100-gram skein and then a 20-gram mini contrast skein. And it's such a good deal for a sock set, and it's shipped to you every month. And so I've been doing that. That's been really fun. It's been a little treat to me every month. And I think I pay like $33 with the shipping included. So that when I say it's a great deal for a sock set, it really is, because you typically are going to pay like $34 and up for a sock set. Then you have to pay shipping. So it's a really good deal. I don't know if the shipping is that because of where, I mean, I live in Pennsylvania, she's in Montana. So it's still a really far way to like, but if you live outside the United States, perhaps the shipping's probably going to be more. Let's get back to these real quick because I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting excited. So I tried this on. Heel fit great. I probably knit about 1/4 of an inch of made the leg 1/4 of an inch longer than it needed to be. So I marked that down in my knitting journal. And next time I make the socks with the Forethought heel, I will make it the foot a little bit shorter. But other than that, they're great. Last night I cast on the second one. I got to where I need to put in my contrast, knit my contrast scrap yarn into it, and then I will just keep on knitting. So yeah, if you haven't tried that yet, and of course you don't have to buy this book to figure out how to do it. I'm just recommending this book because I think that this is just a deep well of information when it comes to knitting socks. Okay. What do you think, Tilly? All right, so I grabbed my basket of Farmer's Daughter Fibers. Yes, yarn. So what I want to talk about now is related to Christmas, because I was thinking the other day, I wasn't even knitting. I was just doing something totally unrelated to knitting or crafting. And I was like, I used to knit so many socks for people for holidays, like birthdays, Christmas, whatever. And I didn't do that. I don't know that I knit. I think I might have knit my mom a pair of socks last year for her birthday or Mother's Day. I don't think I knit socks, gift socks for anyone last year, or maybe just like 2 or 3 pairs, if even that. And I thought I want to do that again this year. I want to knit, and I'm not going to say who I'm going to knit them for because I know certain people that I know watch this. So I'm not saying who I'm knitting for, but I don't even know that I have that figured out yet. But I want to gift knit socks for Christmas gifts this year. And so I have all this fingering weight yarn, and I have not been using it because I've been so focused on knitting sweaters. And I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to knit a sweater, it's probably not going to be in fingering weight yarn, because I've done that and it's quite torturous for me. I don't like knitting fingering weight sweaters. Yeah, no, I've done it. And I probably will do it again, but it's typically not something I enjoy, okay? So most of the sock yarn that I buy is used for socks or for shawls. So I have this basket. This feels quite embarrassing, to be honest, because of the massive amount of yarn that I have. So this is my fingering weight stash. I want to think about, and I'm not going to do this today on the podcast. I want to do this when I want to be thoughtful about this. I want to look through all of my fingering weight yarn, maybe put it out on my bed, put all the skeins out. And I want to think about who I could knit socks for using the yarn that I have. I want to match the person with the perfect yarn for them. You know what I mean? And then I want to be diligent about actually knitting those socks because I have so much great Like I have so much great yarn. Like all this great yarn. And I know that I can use this stuff for things other than socks, but I want to knit socks. I love being able to gift socks to people. I have knit, I've had people ask me if they could buy my socks from me, and I always say no. I've never sold a pair of socks. I'm going to just show you some of this yarn that I have. This is all Farmer's Daughter yarn. But there have been times when I have gifted those people socks because I can't put a price. I just can't put a price on a pair of knitted socks. And if you're a knitter, which most of you, I would assume, who are watching this are knitters, you will understand that. It's between the cost of the actual yarn and then the time that you put into it, it would be a very high price. I've knit prayer socks for people where instead of doing like a prayer shawl, I knit them a pair of socks and I pray for them as I'm knitting it. So that's just some of the Farmer's Daughter. And then I also have like, look at this Barnyard Knits. I forgot I had this. This is called Feather. That's really pretty. And then I have some of, oh my gosh, I can't think of her names. Tiny Human Knits. What is her name? Laura? Is it Laura? But look, I have some of hers that I got several years ago. I think this one was a gift from Annie of Knits in Burl. I think she sent that to me as a gift. And then this one I purchased in a second sale. I don't know if Laura ships to the United States. When the tariffs went into place here in the United States, she, as well as a lot of other people, stopped shipping stuff here. And I don't know if she ever started shipping here again. So I'm not sure about that. But just, what's this? KT and the Squid. I don't even know if these people are dying anymore because I've had a lot of this yarn for such a very long time. Polka Dot Sheep Fine Yarns. Like, look at this. I have so much beautiful sock yarn and I want to use it and I want to bless the people in my life. Lichen and Lace. Oh my gosh, I love this yarn. I have knit multiple pairs of socks with this particular base. It is 80-20. So it's 80% merino and 20% nylon. And it's just like plumper. It's a plumper base. This one's called Peony. They used to have an Etsy shop. I don't know if they still have an Etsy shop. I will look. And if there is an Etsy shop in existence still, I will link it. Old Wired Road Fiber Co. She no longer dies. She just, she doesn't do it anymore. But it's Ashley. She does have a podcast here on YouTube. Knitting at the Creek, I think is what her new podcast is called. But anyway, all this beautiful yarn, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to make some gifts. This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to lay this yarn out, think about who I want to knit socks for, and then pair the yarn up with the recipient. I have to go through and tape a bunch of these Farmer's Daughter fibers tags. They pop off. They're constantly popping off. And that, I'm not going to lie, that kind of drives me crazy. Like, stay on. So I just need to put some Scotch tape on that to hold those on. But anyway, so that is my plan. That is my sock plan. Because I have the sock bug again, I am going to do an episode I've been working on of my favorite sock patterns that are free patterns. And I already have that in the works. So stay tuned for that. Maybe I'll do that next week. And because they're my favorite sock patterns, I think I have almost all of those socks, like those patterns, in sock form here in my house, between my drawer, my husband's drawer, and my daughter's drawer. I mean, I do give a lot of socks away, so I can't say 100%, but when I'm organizing that episode, I will know for sure, of course. And so I'm planning on showing like real life samples of those sock patterns. But I thought that might be fun. I know not all knitters are sock knitters, and some people are like me and they go through periods of time where they want to just focus on garments, and then they just feel really much like, or they feel like they really want to work on socks. Right now I'm feeling like I want to do everything with, as far as project wise. Honestly though, like right now, like I said, my creative energy is quite low. but that happens. It happens to all of us. So those are my upcoming plans for the next, how many months do I have? It's August. It's August 7th. August, September, October, November, December. So essentially 4.5 months. I have 4.5 months, which is good because normally what happens is it's like Thanksgiving and I'm like, oh, I want to knit socks for everybody. That's stressful. I feel like I'm giving myself way more time this year. So kudos to me. All right, so that's all I wanted to talk about today. It is Friday. I put my episodes out on Saturday, every Saturday. Typically, I'm not so last minute with getting these videos filmed and edited, but I am going to stop now. And I can see I've been talking for 28 minutes. What? How does that happen? I don't know. I just love talking about knitting, I guess. But I'm going to go because I need to just do stuff around the house, but I also need to spend the rest of the day sitting at the kitchen table editing because it will take me all day. So I think I've said everything I want to say about what I'm working on and what my plans are with my knitting. And I got to show off some of this really beautiful yarn, and looking at it has made me feel really inspired to just get started. The thing that's going to hang me up the most, that's going to halt the plans, but not really halt them, just delay them, is actually scanning this stuff up. I don't like scanning up yarn. I don't like winding up yarn. What is wrong with me? I just don't like the process of it. It's like I just sit there and I need to just put an audiobook on. And that's what I do with my house chores. I put my earbuds in and I listen to books. I listen to so many books, and I need to just do that and just wind up a bunch of yarn. And then it'll be wound up. And as I'm ready to start that sock, I can just get started and not have to worry about pulling out my umbrella swift and my ball winder and all that. So that's what I need to do over the next couple of days. I need to choose my socks, my yarn choices, and then I need to start winding them up. Okay, thank you for joining me. And yeah, there will probably be a little bit more like vloggy type footage coming up after this, but I'm gonna go and do some editing. All right, thanks for joining me this week. I'll see you next time. I totally lied. I'm back because I even wrote in my notes what I wanted to say, that I wanted to talk about this. I got to tell you guys, I keep forgetting every week for every episode I've had since we've been home from vacation in Maine, which it's been, 2 or 3 weeks now, maybe longer. I want to mention my friend Jody of Flower Hill Fleeces, who I talk about a lot on my podcast. She has a lovely YouTube channel now, and she has it with her daughter Iz. So her daughter Isabel she just moved back to the area from Rhode Island, which is where she's lived for a while, getting her master's degree in fine arts. And so she's back working at the mill with Jody, and they are just doing these. I just love them. I love their weekly videos, vlogs. It's called Mondays at the Mill. And it's just been, I just put them on in the background and listen to them as I'm going about doing stuff. But yeah, so anyway, I'm a little bit behind. So I was watching the one that they posted. Was it last week or was it, I don't know when it was, but now wait, I'm trying to think. In Pittsburgh, we just had the yarn crawl, the Still City Yarn Crawl, I think is what it's called. I never go to it. I just don't typically. I'm so funny. I love podcasting. I love knitting. I love talking about knitting, but I like having small knitting excursions. Big things overwhelm me. So I've never gone to the yarn crawl and gone to all the different yarn stores in the area during the yarn crawl. But they just did a pop-up show for Jody's yarn at the Oakmont Yarn Collab in Oakmont, Pennsylvania, which is right near Pittsburgh, and it's like a 45-minute drive from me. And they did this whole vlog, and they showed their whole summer line of milled yarns. And so they're milling their yarn, they're making their yarn, and then they're also dyeing it. And oh my gosh, so beautiful. Just like this beautiful array, this rainbow of color. So go check that out. I do know that they are having an update to their online store sometime this month. They're not giving the date yet, but sometime this month, and I think it might be soon. So if you've been wanting to get your hands on her yarn, on Jodi's yarn, and you haven't been able to because you haven't been able to go to any of the in-person things that she's been at, there's going to be a shop update soon. Don't know when exactly, but sometime in August. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. I'm going to link Jodi's podcast down below. You can go check that out. I love watching her and her daughter Isabel together. They are like, they complement each other so well. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So, okay, I mean it. I'm going to go now. Bye.
Take the step. You don't have to wait. Lose that breath. You don't gotta change. Stay on the road, won't you? Stay on the road, you're doing fine. Stay on the road, won't you? Stay on the road, it'll work in time. Don't trust that voice, just let her speak. You got a choice.